Previously we saw this GSAP animation, and like many of you, I always want to recreate cool effects I see online. But the real challenge is, how do we use them professionally in a real site? So we made it into this. Here's the animation we'll build today, a GSAP-powered particle intro that transitions into a sleek portfolio website homepage. The particles form custom text, then smoothly animate out to reveal the main content of the portfolio. It's clean, lightweight, and driven by GSAP. After the demo, I'll walk you through exactly how it's built using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and GSAP. So we are using box icons today with these root variables and General Sans font that is extra light and bold. And of course our favorite GSAP for animating everything in this portfolio website. I am having too much fun with GSAP to do any other type of videos recently. Alright, now let's break down the HTML structure behind this animation, because without the HTML, it's just particles floating in the void, kind of like my motivation before coffee. First, we've got the canvas element. That's the stage for our GSAP-powered particle magic. This is where the intro text forms before fading into the actual website. Then comes the header tag. Inside it is a NAV containing a logo with brand class, menu items with links to sections or pages for this portfolio website, and a shiny Let's Talk button. And yes, we added a button shadow div because subtle 3D effects never go out of style. Once we've got the button in place, we'll jump into the main content. But hey, while we're at it, why not hit that subscribe button? It's free, and if you're enjoying the look and loving the free code, yep, it's in the description, show some love. Now let's break down the main content section, where all the real magic begins. This section kicks off with a main tag, which is perfect for semantic HTML and helps search engines understand that this is the primary content area of the page. Inside, we've got a vertical label that says portfolio, a nice little visual anchor for branding and layout styling. Then comes the banner section, the hero of our homepage. It's split into two columns. On the left, a sleek box with our main image, probably me, pretending to look productive. And on the right, the actual intro content, a big bold heading, a paragraph that screams hire me, and a beautifully styled button that links to my projects, complete with a subtle GSAP shadow animation. Finally, we've got a cluster of social icons to keep things connected: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, old platforms, but whatever, because what's a portfolio in 2025 without showing you exist on at least 4 platforms? This whole layout is clean, semantic, and structured for SEO, accessibility, and of course, cool factor. Structurally, this layout is semantically sound, SEO-friendly, and cleanly organized for CSS styling and GSAP animation targeting. So when you wonder why things animate so smoothly later on, it all starts here, with good old HTML. One important thing with box icons is that it's BXL, not BX1 in the icons. Let me clear up this mistake. Since we are done with HTML, next up, the CSS layer that brings this structure to life. In CSS, these root variables will be used a lot, so please note them. Also, General Sans font. This part is CSS spring cleaning, reset all the weird defaults. Box sizing? Saves your layout sanity. Text rendering? A gentle nudge to make it look sharp. For HTML and body, we're setting the stage. Smooth scrolling? Check. Responsive typography with clamp? Check. Background darker than my soul on a Monday morning? You bet. This centers your content without tears. Every section in main is now full height, flexed, and basically living its best centered life. Kill the browser styles, keep the essentials. If you've ever styled a button and screamed at a blue outline, this one's for you. Same goes for anchor tags. For all typography elements, we're keeping type consistent and breaking words before they break our layout. Bonus, text wrap, pretty, makes things, well, pretty. This block of CSS will make sure your images behave like good roommates. Responsive, clean, and no stretching like a bad 90s website. For section? That's your full-width hero edge-to-edge, perfect for bold backgrounds or big visuals. While container keeps your content in check, 75 rem max, centered with margin inline, auto. Clean, reliable, done. Use both, and your layout instantly feels polished. Here's clean typography in 2 classes, title large scales with clamp, responsive, bold, and tight with a 1.15 line height. Text base keeps it simple, 1 rem size, 1.5 line height for easy reading. Big title, clean body, that's solid type hierarchy. A fully fixed NAV that transitions like a charm and fades in when needed. Overlay included because, dark mode drama. The header is fixed at the top, hidden by default with an upward slide, ready to animate in on scroll. The navbar uses Flexbox to align items to the right with spacing clean, compact, and centered within 90% width. The brand text is bold, uppercase, and styled for impact with a consistent font and strong sizing. The menu is hidden off canvas by default, no shadows, no background, and positioned for desktop layout. When active, the menu snaps into the top left, useful for toggling visibility in NAV animations. Menu inner wraps the links in a centered Flexbox row with even spacing between items. Each menu link is clean, capitalized, and legible, styled for readability and modern UI. The menu block is pushed to the far right using margin left, auto, great for aligning elements like buttons. This is a full-screen black overlay, hidden by default, sitting behind content with slight opacity and a smooth transition effect. When active, the overlay becomes visible, perfect for modals, menus, or dimming the background. Now let's break down this banner layout in one go. It's clean and structured. First up, banner column, a grid with 2 columns, one flexible, one fixed, perfectly aligned with a 4 rem gap. Then, banner image, responsive, cropped just right with object fit, cover, and centered in its grid cell. Banner inner stacks text vertically with space in between, offset slightly for that modern, layered feel. Now, banner link, absolutely positioned to the top right, stacked using grid, and spaced cleanly. Each child inside gets a readable 1.25 rem size, no clutter, just clarity. And those lines? Banner link before and after, add vertical separators above and below, subtle, sleek, and symmetrical. If you're animating particles, they go behind everything. Always. Like a polite introvert. This particle canvas is for particle animation for intro text before displaying portfolio website. Main content starts hidden with opacity 0 ready for reveal animations. It's positioned relatively with a Z-index boost to layer above the background. Padding? Just 0.5 rem for breathing room. Inside it, every P tag gets a legible 1.2 rem font, comfy 1.6 line height, and capped at 500 pixels for better reading. Here's a breakdown of this futuristic button style. First, the button uses all, unset to white default styles, clean slate. A custom border width with clamp, adapts to any screen. Background? A soft linear gradient with a glassmorphic vibe. Rounded edges using border radius, 999 VW, super pill-shaped. Then, stacked box shadows give depth, outer glow, inset lighting, and blur layers. And yes, backdrop filter, blur finishes the glass effect. On hover? It scales down slightly and the blur softens, adding that tactile feedback. Inside the span, bold, spaced out text with a faint glow. Hovering the span sharpens the shadow, subtle but polished. That's how you make a button feel premium, interactive, and modern. In demo, the text inside the button was pure white, but I changed it to the text color in this hero section for no reason. Ever seen those vertical labels stuck to the side of a layout? Here's how it's done. Vertical label is fixed to the left, spans full height, and gets a subtle right border for structure. Inside it, the span is absolutely positioned, centered vertically, and rotated -90 degrees to read from bottom to top. Clean, minimal, and stylish, all with just a few lines of CSS. Now for the image frame. These are just fancy containers, complete with dots that say, yeah, I'm styled on purpose. Honestly, they don't need to do anything but look cool, and they do. Box starts off shifted with Translate 3D for a cool, off-center effect. It's semi-transparent, padded, and has a clean border. But the real detail? The decorative dots, before and after on the box, placed at the top left and top right. Stylish and subtle. Inside, box inner is relatively positioned and padded like a frame. And again, custom corner dots added with before and after, this time at the bottom corners. Everything is symmetrical, framed, and modern. Use this trick to turn basic boxes into beautifully styled components. Now that we are done with the CSS, let's make opacity of main content 1 just to see how it looks and then turn it back to opacity 0. Ever seen particles form your name on screen like they're being summoned by magic? No sorcery here, just Canvas, JavaScript, and a whole lot of GSAP. We start with a full-screen HTML canvas because pixels deserve space too. Using getContext2D, we prep our stage, or as I call it, the particle playground. We also set the canvas to fill the entire window so it feels expensive, like a luxury UI. We start by defining the particle color using HSL for subtle control, then set the display text, font size, and a gap value which determines how densely particles are sampled from the canvas text. Finally, we initialize an empty particles array to store all particle objects we'll animate with GSAP. Now let's break down how this animation actually works line by line. The render text particles function is the star of the show. First, we create a temporary canvas element off-screen. This acts like a hidden workspace where we draw our text. We match the dimensions of the main canvas, so the text appears centered exactly where it should. We set a soft gray-blue fill color, center the text horizontally, and apply a bold font with a dynamic size using the General Sans typeface to ensure it looks clean and modern when rendered on the temporary canvas. Please note that this line is in backticks and General Sans is in commas. And now, we draw the actual text on the canvas. It's centered both horizontally and vertically. Next, we grab the pixel data from this canvas using getImageData. This gives us the RGBA values for every pixel. We now loop through every pixel on the temporary canvas in steps defined by the gap value to keep performance optimized. For each point, we check the alpha value, ImageData.data, I+3, which tells us how visible that pixel is. If the alpha is greater than 128, meaning it's part of the visible text, we create a new particle. Each particle starts at a random position on the screen, x, y, but stores its target position, tx, ty, based on the text shape. This is how we later animate them into forming the text. Once all particles are created, we animate them using GSAP. Each particle moves from its random start point to its target position, forming the full text. We then call the draw function to keep updating the canvas every frame. And after a 4.2-second delay, we shrink the canvas into the corner and bring in the rest of the portfolio UI using a GSAP timeline. This GSAP tween resizes and repositions the particle canvas by shrinking it to 50% of its original width and height, and moving it to top, 25 pixels and left, 80 pixels. The transition is animated over 1.2 seconds using a smooth power 3 and out easing for a polished effect. Then we fade in the main content, headers, vertical labels, and banner sections, all in sequence. We gradually reveal the main content of the page. First, the primary section fades in smoothly, followed by the header sliding into view with restored interactivity. Then, the vertical labels and content boxes appear with subtle motion, and finally, the banner elements animate upward in a staggered sequence, creating a clean and polished entrance for the entire layout. This is where motion meets interface. A smooth particle morph intro seamlessly transitions into a modern UI. Now for the draw function we called. This is the continuous animation loop that keeps rendering each particle on the canvas. First, it clears the previous frame to avoid visual trails. Then for every particle, it draws a small circle at its current position using its assigned color. Finally, request animation frame, draw, ensures this function keeps looping, giving us smooth animation updates. Finally, we listen for any window resize events and reload the page to make sure the canvas scales correctly on different screen sizes. Then, once the custom font has fully loaded, we trigger the render text particles function to ensure the text is accurately drawn before converting it into particles. Now let's see what we've built. The code link will be added in the description tomorrow, and don't forget to subscribe, it's free. If you have been dealing with my dead humor for 24 minutes straight, then